like 24 was, but it's got to be a different forte. Melody in second and third clarinet. Oh, I skipped over that. Lots of air at the bottom of that woodwind crescendo. The 16th note run. Lots of air on that first set of notes. And we have our big key change here. A lot of naturals for our C instrument and a lot of sharps for everybody else. So marking that and, encouraging them in their parts to go through and mark what was flat is now natural and what was natural is now sharp. So melody in second, third clarinet, trumpets, euphonium again, and also the glockenspiel. We don't want to forget our percussionists. They'll let us know that we've forgotten them. And there's some cool moving lines in the flutes and clarinets when the melody's on a long tone, so bringing those out. Lining up the eighth notes together with it being a slower, smoother piece. They still have to move the fingers very accurately and swiftly as though they were playing a fast piece, so we don't get a mushy or, molasses type sound. Again, reminding the accompaniment not to get too aggressive because we want to hear these moving lines. Just kind of marking those so I don't forget where they are. Then we get this cool fanfare here at 38. So we're going to want to make sure that's articulate and in time between the French horns and the euphoniums, and then in our trumpets we want them to have the same musical dialect even though they're on different instruments, so that it sounds this unified amongst the group. I don't want to say the same. And we're going to go ahead and mark a crescendo underneath the 16th note run in the woodwind, so they've got lots of air to push through that. Melody comes back. It's a major sounding version of our original theme. Still smooth, still very beautiful, even at the larger dynamic, the bigger dynamic. And then our molto rallentando here at 45. I don't want to do that too soon because then it just becomes dirge-like at the end if you do it soon. So I think that 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and that's a perfect place to do it. And actually I drew a long arrow, but now I immediately regret that because I really only want the rallentando to happen in that measure, and then 2 and 3, 4 and can be back in time, and then not too fast, but back in time, and then the last measure will have some rallentando. In fact, this one I will almost certainly show 1 and 2 and 3. So I better mark that at the top, 1 and 2 and 3, and that's with a big fade out, so I'll circle that big crescendo. And then a nice gentle release. And that's Amaryland.
All right. So, first priority to address with the ensemble out the gate.
Balance.
Okay.
Both of the color. We want to get a good color from the sound, and we don't want to cover up our melody.
Okay. And some ways in which you're going to address that?
Starting by identifying making sure that they know what the melody is. Some people think that their 8 whole notes in a row is a melody, and maybe in a Mahler symphony that might be, but probably not in this piece. And so letting them hear, have the soloist play the melody. Now everybody play your parts, but one on a part, so that we can balance and hear. And now we'll add a few in at a time, so we have the whole band playing, but we've kept that good balance that we had when it was one on a part. And again, addressing that when is your dynamic? We talk about how, well, it says forte on the page, but that's a group dynamic. But the students don't necessarily know, since they don't see the score, when is it marked forte all the way down the page, or when is the melody marked forte and everybody else marked mezzo forte. So making sure they know the difference, and when they can play out and when they need to back down, and what is their role, foreground, middle ground, or background. And this is a great piece to let all students really be all three at different points in the piece. Sometimes they get to be the main thing, and sometimes they're the secondary important thing, and then sometimes they're, and I hate to say important, that was something I always caught myself I didn't want to say you're not important here. All the parts are important, but you're important to be the background character right here, not the star of the show.
Okay, and then secondary issues?
Smoothness. This has got to be, the opposite of that nice and light style that we had in the other piece. This has got to be just beautiful, rich sound. The only time you really get to step outside that is this this little fanfare here in the middle. And so making sure that has a nice contrast too is important. And then as I'm emphasizing smoothness, remembering that it's not slurred from start to finish. We do need to get that articulation in there. One thing that's really important on this piece is there'll be a slur to a note and then the same note. And so many times, especially on a first read of this piece, they won't re-articulate it, or they'll re-articulate it so light that it sounds like the same note. That was one thing I always try to go after as a conductor, is when you have the same note twice in a row, it can't sound like it's just tied through. You have to hear that, but you also don't want to ta, you don't want to overdo it either, but that's a big one as well.
Okay. And are you familiar with this piece?
Yep. High school senior year we played it on my last concert, and then I played it again in my junior year at symphonic band here at U of L. That's when I kind of learned that, yeah, you can play pieces that you've played before and maybe do some new and different things with them. And then when I first got the job as the director of bands at Henderson County High School, the wind ensemble had really been going after some high-level literature. And this is not me speaking ill of anybody that taught before me, but they really weren't getting it. I think the students just thought that they could play this high-level stuff, but they really hadn't learned what it meant to take a piece to festival and play it like you were going to make a recording of it, like the composer was going to come listen to it, like every note on the page was being played as it was intended to. And so my very first concert cycle, a fall concert during marching season, I said, guys, you're trying to play these. They were trying to play grade 5. They thought it was grade 6, but it was just 5. I said, guys, we're doing a reset here. And our fall concert was 3 grade 3 pieces. And they kind of hated it. They liked the pieces well enough, Fanfare and Flourishes, Amerland, and Unraveling. But I tried to get them to understand what we were doing. And they still kind of struggled, but it was also kind of nice because it was during marching season. We had not really done a lot of fall concerts during marching season. So they had a lot on their plate, so they kind of liked that it was easier. But they saw that they were getting more in-depth with it. And at the concert, all 3 of them just went, except for when the kid knocked over a trap table full of tambourines during Unraveling, it hit the ground in time, so it was fine. Except for that, it was really a fine, publisher recording quality level piece, all 3 of them. And the parents came up and they said, we've never heard. They didn't know that it was lower level music, not lower level, but easier music than what that bands had been playing before. They just knew that the sound quality and the performance level was higher. And they said that to their kids. And the kids kind of went, okay, we get it now. And I said, now we can start, we can kick it up a notch. And by festival time, I'd love to be at a grade 5. As it happens, we went as a grade 4 that year. And then the next year took it to another level and played grade 5s from then on out. But for the wind ensemble to have to start at a grade 3 was a huge adjustment for them. But it also showed them that a piece like this might be on the list as a grade 3, but there's some tough musical stuff in there. And so that was the last time. That's been 5 years or so since I've seen this. But another one that I have encountered several times and is very special to me.
So you programmed for a concert but not festival?
Do what? I'm sorry.
It was programmed for a concert.
Yeah, that one was not a festival piece. I very well could have. And I think, I was only the director for 4 years, so I think I was kind of trying to cite, had I been there for 1 to 2 more years, it probably would have come back for a festival at some point. But yeah, that one was not a festival, but it could have been. As a public school teacher, when you take your group to festival, you've got your 3 prepared, or however many prepared pieces you do. Maybe just do one big one. But then there's another level that you can't 100% be prepared for, and that is the sight reading round. I know we do it in Kentucky. I don't know what other states require it, and I know you don't do it at state festival. It's just at your district festival. But you walk